Good morning and welcome. I am Vicki Jaramillo, Senior Director of Marketing and Air Service Development here at Orlando International Airport. I'd like to offer a greeting in Hebrew. Boker tov vebruchim habayin el namal teofa ha ben leomi shel Orlando. Anu modim lachem. Here's the big one. Ahitz tarfuchem elenu haboker kasher Anu Hehim El Tisat Haba Chora Shel Elal Mi Orlando Le Tel Aviv. So we are very excited for this day to finally arrive, inaugurating this new nonstop flight from El Al from Orlando International Airport to Tel Aviv. First, though, I'd like to recognize and thank Dr. Daniel Leish. So what does a medical doctor have to do with the flight to Israel? I went to see Dr. Leish in January, and in conversation, he asked me about my job. I said, I recruit airlines to Orlando International Airport. He replied, if you ever get a flight to Tel Aviv on El Al, let me know. So 1 week later, I received a call from Yoram El-Grabi from El Al wanting to discuss a possible nonstop from Tel Aviv to Orlando. I sent an email that evening to Dr. Leish saying, you might get your wish. Within minutes, he emailed me back and asked, how can I help? Could he post something on social media? Knowing airlines prefer to keep things private before any announcement is made, I asked Yoram if okay for Dr. Leish to post on Facebook about the possibility of flying to Orlando International this summer, and he replied, good to go. Once given the green light, Dr. Leish and I drafted the post. That was around 10 o'clock at night. By 10 a.m. the next morning, I had already received 35 plus emails, and more continued to flood my inbox in my box from the Central Florida Jewish community with people expressing their interest in flying nonstop from Orlando International Airport to Tel Aviv. This grassroots effort helped us demonstrate that there is potential passenger traffic from the Central Florida area, since El Al needs to fill the flight in both directions for the route to be successful. So Dr. Leish couldn't be here this morning because he is a doctor and he's working at the hospital, but he's represented by his lovely wife, Stacy.
Por favor de marcar cero de un teléfono de cortesía. Teresa Zambrano Dominguez, por favor de marcar cero de un teléfono de cortesía.
We are an airport, so in addition to the local Jewish committee, thank you so much to so many of the other faiths that are helping to support this El Al flight to Israel. Also like to recognize Keith Dvorak from the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of Greater Orlando, Yael Golan with the Israel Ministry of Tourism in Atlanta, and a special thanks to Edith Lochringer from the Israeli American Council for all her assistance with our event today, and she's actually taking the inaugural today, shortly. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the CEO of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, Mr. Phil Brown. Thank you, Toda Rabbat.
Paging Teresa Zambrano Dominguez. Please proceed
It is
to
an
a
airport.
page phone and dial 0 for a message. Teresa Zambrano Dominguez to a page phone, dial 0 for a message.
I'm not as fluent as Vicki, so all I can say is shalom. Good morning and welcome. Good morning. Good morning. This is the happiest place in the world, so let's show it. Thank you. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, Honorable Leor Hyatt from the Consul of Israel in Florida, Yoram El-Grabi, for joining us today. Also, we have some elected officials, Senator Simpson and Representative Fine joining us today, as well as our board members, Carson Good and Jason Pirazzolla. Unfortunately, we had a few that have our board members on vacation and couldn't attend. We'll tell them what they've missed. As Vicki mentioned, this day at Orlando International is one we've been waiting for a long time. The beginning of nonstop service between Tel Aviv and Orlando International and El Al Airlines. We celebrate here today because of the efforts of a lot of people that had to make this event happen, not the least of which was the leadership and support of Governor DeSantis, Dana Young, from the CEO from Visit Florida. There are a lot of people. Walt Disney World was very supportive both here and in Tel Aviv. We had the privilege of attending the trade mission to Tel Aviv, so we've got a few familiar faces here that engaged with us on that trip. And we had a lot to sell when we went there. We have world-class theme parks, which everybody knows about. We have the second largest research university in the country, the University of Central Florida, our high-tech and simulation industries, a space program which launched the Israel moon lander in February of this year. This service links our unique, innovative community to Israel. And by the way, Israel, in the 2019 Bloomberg Innovation Index, was ranked the 5th most innovative economy in the world. This recognition was made in large part because of the abundance of successful high-tech startups in Israel. So you can see, even though there's an ocean between us, there's a lot that bonds our two communities.
Final intermediate boarding call, Flight 1831, service to Cincinnati through doorway 72. All passengers must proceed to doorway 72 for departure.
This flight makes that bridge between those economic and cultural bonds even stronger. Thank El Al for the vision and incredible business, to see the incredible business and leisure opportunities that Orlando and Central Florida have. We also thank them for their willingness to work with us in this process, and we most importantly thank them for their friendship and partnership in this new endeavor. May it be fruitful and long-lasting. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Domingo Sanchez, Chairman of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority. He is now in his second term on the board, was recently selected as our chairman after successfully serving as the board's vice chairman, and he is a champion of customer service at this airport. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Domingo Sanchez.
Thank you, Phil. Good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning. It's my pleasure to stand here as the chairman of the Aviation Authority, representing our great authority, and welcome new seasonal air service from Tel Aviv to the Orlando International Airport. It's a banner day for us. We built a world-class facility here. It's a fantastic facility. The teams work tirelessly on making sure that things happen correctly. And so I just want to personally thank our team at the airport. Phil Brown and his team have done a fantastic job. So thank you, Phil, so much for all your work. On behalf of our board, I want to welcome all of you. Thank you for being here this morning. I know this is a lot of personal time, but we certainly appreciate it. I also like to take a moment and thank everyone in our community partners, critical to these connections with all these flights and all these destinations. They want to know that they're going to take a flight and be able to, develop a flight and be able to get to and from, and make sure that those flights are full. So I want to encourage everybody to take a first-class flight to Tel Aviv as soon as you possibly can. Very important. So thank you so much. One of our goals at the Orlando International Airport is to make the world local with a variety of nonstop flights and strong connections to some of the most sought-after destinations in the world. This new El Al flight is a critical component in that effort, creating a connection between the United States' most visited destination, here Orlando, and Israel's second largest city. We wish El Al the best of luck with this new service and hope to get to build this partnership and see a permanent route develop as a result of today's inaugural flight. Now it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor DeSantis is a native Floridian, so go Florida. I'm a native Floridian too, which means he's got a very unique perspective on where the state is. Governor DeSantis is a leader who has tirelessly pursued a strong connection with Israel, and I was happy to accompany him on his recent mission trip to Israel. I know that this is a very important venture to him, which is why I'm glad he was able to join us here today. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome a 46th governor of our great state, Governor DeSantis.
Well, thank you, Domingo, and thanks for everyone. It's really exciting to be here. After the election, we were looking at different things that we were going to do. I had promised that we would do a trade mission to Israel, and I was very, very supportive of the fact that we've had a nonstop service to Florida to Miami from Ben Gurion Airport. And that had not always been the case, but I think it's been very successful. And I thought that was great and wanted to keep that going. But I was like, really, that's one important part of Florida, but we really wanted, I think, to have the connection to a different part of Florida, and I think here in Central Florida is really the perfect spot. Yes, it's true, you could go fly to New York or Miami and then come to Orlando and see what they all have to offer, but having the nonstop flight, I think, is very, very significant. Of course, anchored by world-famous theme parks. There's much more here in Central Florida than just that, but that's very important. Although I will say this, clearly like Walt Disney World, Universal, all that, I think people in Israel would love it. And this is not to knock this, but I think that the one that the Israelis will probably pass on is the Holy Land theme park, because I think they got that covered from where they're coming from. And it's really exciting, though, because we just got back from the trade mission where we had 23 strategic agreements advancing economic and academic relationships, 16 academic memorandums of understanding between 10 of our Florida colleges and universities and 5.
1151, service to Los Angeles, doorway 94. All passengers make your way to doorway 94 for immediate boarding and departure, please.
5 Israeli.
Dutton, Fox, Hood, and Solomon. Please make your way to doorway 94 for immediate boarding and departure, please. Final boarding call.
And 5 Israeli universities, including, University of Central Florida is involved with that. We met with a number of Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We had a number of business recruitment meetings. Now, there are Israeli companies that actually already have a foothold in Florida that we're interested in seeing expansion. And then, of course, there's probably no place in the world right now where you have as much innovation as you do in Israel. And so I send the message, that Florida, as you have new innovations and you want to bring some of these products to market and you need a foothold in the United States, Florida is as good as you're gonna do, in my judgment. And I think people were really, the message was well received. So I think you're going to see more economic relationships build as we go forward. And we have different issues we're dealing with Florida, like blue-green algae. Well, they have approaches. Now, we have a process. People can bid on these things. And so, but, to open it up to that, I think was really, really significant. So we're really good. It was a good meeting. But one thing I will say is having the nonstop flight, yes, we want to bring Israelis here because it's an affluent country. I think they got a lot of resources to spend in Florida, and we welcome that. But this also gives people in Central Florida the opportunity in a relatively convenient way to Israel. And I can tell you, if you go, it's something that you will always remember. It leaves an indelible mark. I remember when I was younger thinking like, oh my gosh, I go to a memorial in Washington, D.C. The monuments, our country's history, like 200 years or however long it was at the time. Wow. And then I became a U.S. representative representing, among other places, St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest continuous, settlement in the North America, in the United States. 450-year anniversary we had in 2015. Wow, that's like twice as long as our country. Well, you go to Israel, 450 years. In fact, we were doing we were in some of the ruins in Shiloh a couple years ago when I was there, and there's all these artifacts you just grab, and I was like, oh, what's this? And the guide's like, that's Byzantine Empire, we don't care about that. I was like, well, hey, I care about that, that's old. So it's you're going and you're talking about thousands of years of history, and it doesn't even matter. Obviously, if you're in the Jewish community, great. Christian community, great. But even if you're neither of those, it's something that is very, very meaningful.
94. Passenger Brock.
So
Fox and Solomon, please make your way to doorway 94 for immediate boarding and departure, please. Final boarding call.
So having people be able to go from Central Florida directly to there is something that I think you'll see interest. I think you'll see a lot of interest in the Jewish community, as was mentioned. I think you'll see a lot of the churches be very interested in sending delegations there, and I look forward to building on the relationship. And I think that this is kind of a summer deal. I think as word gets out that this is an option, both here in Central Florida and in Israel, I think you're going to see more and more people be interested in doing it. And so it's really great to be here at our busiest airport in Florida, and I'm happy that this service is starting. And it's when we we're talking about doing something in Central Florida and made the entreaty to El Al, I was thinking like, well, maybe when we go on the trade mission, we can talk about doing. Literally within like a couple days, they were interested in doing it, and it was just like, yeah, we're going to do it. So I really hats off to El Al for how quickly they work. So we are in. I think this is a great day, and I think that we are coming off a successful trade mission and obviously want to continue the ties. So where's Dana? Okay, so one of the people that is spearheading these initiatives, both in terms of the tourism, but also, as part of our overall economic development, is Dana Young, who's a CEO and president of Visit Florida. She attended the trade mission with us in May, and she's here, and so I'm going to bring her up to say a few words. Dana?
Thank you so much, Governor. And it is great to be here today. It felt real when I drove in this morning from Tampa and came in the airport, and the directional signs for the terminals had El Al on the sign. So it's real. They're here to stay. And it's just very exciting to be here and for the launch of this flight. Visit Florida is Florida's official destination marketing organization. And what we do is promote our state as the top tourism destination in the world. And being a part of the trade mission to Israel was really profound for me, because not only had I never been to Israel and got to experience Israel, but we were able to make serious connections with the Israeli travel trade industry. We had meetings with El Al. We had an event with over 100 representatives of the Israeli travel trade. And I will tell you that Israel is an untapped market for U.S. tourism. We were told that Florida, with our major billboard campaign that was going on during the trade mission, Florida is the only state in the country doing any advertising whatsoever in the country of Israel.
To a page 4.0 for a message. Hilda, tell out to a page 4.0.
Go Hilda. So anyway, it is an untapped market, and I believe that, as the governor said, there is so much to offer here in Florida for the Israeli traveler. We were excited as Visit Florida to be a financial partner with El Al in promoting this new flight. So we were able to join with them. We did a campaign of billboards, digital marketing, social media marketing to promote this particular flight, and hopefully it's something that we'll be able to continue in the future. We are very cognizant of the importance here in Florida of international visitors, international markets. We had more than 14 million international travelers visit the state of Florida last year, and this is significant because of Visit Florida and our robust marketing around the world. We were able to increase our international market share from 22.1% to 24.4%. So what does that mean? That means that nearly 25% of every international traveler that comes to the United States comes to Florida. That's a big deal. We are known around the world as a wonderful vacation destination for beaches and for theme parks, but as the governor said, we have so much more to offer. And so our message to the global traveler is, if you think you've seen Florida, if you think you know Florida, we've got more to show you. Think again, because we have such a diverse experience. So I'm confident that we will continue to do business with Israel and hopefully get more Israeli travelers on this wonderful flight. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Governor, for your great support of tourism and Visit Florida. And thank you, El Al, for where's the El Al? El Al, there you are, right in front. Thank you for making this happen.
Thank you, Dana. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the Consul for Israel in the state of Florida, the Honorable Lior Hayat.
Shalom, everyone. Good morning. I'm Lior. I'm the Consul General of Israel to Florida, which makes me the luckiest Israeli diplomat alive for serving in the most pro-Israel place on earth. When I came here 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, I was surprised to see how close Israel is to Florida, how Floridians look at Israel, how Floridians love Israel, and I thought it couldn't get any better than that. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for proving me wrong, because it got a lot better than that, and for leading a historical delegation to Israel when we signed an historical number of agreements, among them also from Visit Florida and the Israeli tourism ministry. And when every time you think that it can't get any better than that, we look around and we see that Israel is getting closer and closer to Florida as we speak. When my kids were younger, they asked me, what do I do for a living? And it's hard to explain what a diplomat does. So I told them I work in construction. I build bridges. And I build bridges between Israel and the places I serve in. And when I came to Florida, one of the bridges that was missing was a direct flight from Israel to Florida. Well, we got two now. We got one just almost 2 years ago to Miami, and we got the second one to Orlando, inaugurating today. Thank you, Elal, for doing that. Thank you for the Orlando International Airport for hosting us. It's a beautiful facility, and I'm sure a lot of Israelis will use this airport in order to visit Florida. We saw since 2 years ago that Elal started the direct flight to Miami that we almost doubled the number of Israel tourists in Florida. We're talking about huge numbers. I'm happy to say that the fourth weekly flight will start this October, and I urge you to visit Israel as well. There's always good time to visit Israel for the first time. The only problem with that is you might get addicted to that, and you'll have to visit Israel for the second and third time. Thank you again for inviting us. Thank you for celebrating Elal with us and celebrating Israel here in Florida. Toda rabba.
Thank you, Lior. Now it's my pleasure to introduce for some closing remarks Yoram El-Gabli, the Vice President of North America and Central America for Airlines Israel.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Governor, distinguished guests, Phil, I want to say something about forgot her name. Sorry, Vicky. So, Vicky, I remember the call that we held. It was about 5 months ago. Yeah, something like that. At the moment that I called her, immediately she took over the project. She just didn't let me go anymore. Every week it's a follow-up call, how we are going, what we are doing, how we do, what we do. And I want to thank you personally for your contribution to this route and to the fact that we have a non-stop flight from Orlando to Tel Aviv. Phil, you spoke about the ocean that separates between us, and we at El Al humbled and proud to be the bridge between both countries, between both states, Israel and Orlando. I want to thank you all for coming here this morning, and we will continue to work hard in order to bring much more traffic here to Orlando. I want to thank you for the welcome, and it's not for granted the way I got treated here in Miami and here in Orlando, and wish us all best of luck in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now, Governor, if you join us, we're going to have a ribbon cutting and we're going to have a cake cutting, which is traditional. It's kosher cake.